Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Vive Influencers. Today, we have a very special guest, Phia, who runs a great channel on YouTube, The Virtual Reality Show. How are you doing, Phia?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing? It's great to be here.
I'm doing good, especially after seeing you and, of course, your really cool, very friendly avatar. I think it's my day just lightened up, and I think you've been doing that for lots and lots of people on YouTube. So we appreciate you being out there teaching people and inspiring people about VR.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what I do so much, so I appreciate the kind words.
Great. So why don't you tell us about your channel and a brief background of some life choices that led you up to that point, starting that channel.
Yeah, so obviously my name is Phia and I run the virtual reality show on YouTube, which is a series that I created to talk about any and all topics relating to VR from inside of VR itself. So I pick, from a variety of ranges of different topics, whether that's VR technology or lifestyle choices or things like Phantom Touch or VR dancers. I cover basically anything you could possibly imagine. And then I hop into a VR world to record myself talking about them and presenting different information and facts. So it's something that I decided to do when I was 20 years old at the beginning of last year. So I started my channel in February and I had only gotten VR the Christmas before. So only for about 2 months did I have VR before I decided to start making YouTube content about it, which was kind of insane. But I discovered virtual avatars first before I discovered VR. And I had fallen in love with this clothing brand called Cloma, which is a high fashion Japanese clothing brand. And they created virtual clothing for avatars using this program called VRoid. And I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. Like VRoid outfits, like I want to have a VRoid. And so I went and I made one. And I had this avatar and I had a unique outfit on. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Now, what do I do with it? And so then I figured out VRChat. And I was like, oh, so I can use this avatar in VRChat and use it to wander around. And I fell in love with the game. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I need to get my hands on a VR headset and try this out for myself. So I tried it out and I just absolutely fell in love with the experience. It changed my life forever. Like, seriously, the perception of just reality completely shifted for me. And I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And so when I was driving to school one day, because I was studying to be an English major at the time, I was like, I don't really want to be an English major. That sounds kind of boring to me. Like, I'm just doing this because I need to pick something to do. But what I really love is VR. I want to do something with that. So then I thought to myself and I was like, well, what are my talents? What am I good at? And I was like, well, I'm good at talking and I'm good at being excited. So I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to try and present information to make other people just as excited about VR as I am. And so that's the story of how my channel started.
Yeah, I think that's a great story. I think you do have like a perfect, anime voice. Just when I hear your show, yeah, I feel like you just sound like those professional voice actresses that dub animations and anime. And I was like, wow, it's very friendly. And you talked about the special attire. I noticed that you have I think that's like a warning message on your shirt and some Japanese. What? Can you explain what does that say?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of like it's made up Japanese. I'm not gonna lie. This is me literally, I actually took 2 Japanese courses in college. And so with the little Japanese that I knew, I kind of put it together. The katakana here, it says metaverse. So metaverse and then no, basically of. And then I have the kanji for like electric and then the kanji for woman. And so it's like electric girl from the metaverse is kind of how I like to uh interpret it, but that's totally just made up Japanese. Don't take it at face value. But it's actually based off of a shirt that I have in real life. It just had different kanji on it and I decided to customize it a bit, so I made my own little outfit out of it, based off of the real one that I have.
Very, very cool. And why is it a warning sign? Like warning, there's this electric girl from the metaverse here, or there's a more meaning behind that?
No, it's not there's not too much depth in the warning symbol. It's literally just a cool outfit that I thought was interesting. So I could probably make up some cool stuff, for the interview if I really wanted to here. We could pretend it's, like warning, like your soul is gonna be sucked into VR forever or something like that. But unfortunately not.
Yeah, I think it does stand out because I think if it was just some Japanese, I may not care to ask about it, but because it has this warning, it's like, oh, I should pay attention, right? That's just a subliminal message to the brain, like I should pay attention. And then I see the Japanese like, well, I don't understand, so I don't know what to pay attention to. It makes me want to ask. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but it's not like yellow, like actually alarming and big in terms of warning you. So I think it's friendly, cool. I like it. So good
Mhm.
choice.
Thank you.
And then how did you come up with the name Phia?
Well, it's quite simple actually, because my real name is Sophia. So I just took away the so part and then Phia was left over. And I was like, damn, like that sounds cool. Like
It is
so
pretty cool.
that ended up being my nickname in high school. I originally wanted to be a music producer, was like what I wanted to do with my life. I never dived too far into it. It was more of a like, this sounds cool rather than a like, I actually wanted to like do it kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And so my friends started nicknaming me DJ Phia. They're like, oh yeah, DJ Phia's in the house, like saying stuff like that. And so once I decided to make content, I just knocked the DJ part off and just became Phia.
And you wanted to be a musician, and what else did you want to do when you were growing up?
Oh, I wanted to do everything. I am all over the place with my passions and talents and like things that I wanted to do. For a long time, I really wanted to be a manga artist because I was super into drawing when I was young. And I was like, I'm going to make an anime and I'm going to make my own manga. Like, it's going to be the best thing ever. And so I think it's pretty funny that I ended up becoming an anime character for a living later on.
Yeah. What's your favorite manga or anime?
I have a few, but it's hard to say exactly which one my favorite is. I would say the one that I'd recommend the most to people watching this, who I think like if you're into VR or into like VTubing and stuff like that, and you kind of want to have your brain poked, is an anime called Serial Experiments Lain. I think that one's super interesting. It asks a lot about online identity questions and like who you actually are. And it has some cool questions about like living in other realities and kind of what that means. So highly, highly recommend it if you've never checked it out before.
Right. Yeah. And I think those questions will become more and more important as the metaverse becomes more and more established and more of a reality in this world.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think a lot when people ask young people about what they want to do as their dream job, a lot of people said, being a VTuber, YouTuber. So it looks like you're living the dream. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
so great. What were the beginning days like for starting your channel? I know you've actually risen quite quickly. It only took you a year to get you to this point.
Mhm.
But do you have any interesting stories? Was it hard? Because most people, when they start a channel, right, everyone wants to make it big, but majority of channels just have, a few dozen, a couple hundred subscribers. So
Right.
when you started, were you worried about it? Did you do it for fun? Did you have big ambitions about it? How did those early days go?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love talking about the early days because on one hand, I had no idea how successful I would be, right? You can't predict that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I totally just had this intuition about it. I was like, man, this stuff is awesome. Like, awesome. Like, I know this stuff is going to blow up. Like, I just know it. I felt it in my soul. I was like, everybody's going to want to do VR. Everybody's going to want to be a VTuber. And I fortunately was lucky enough to discover it right before it blew up by a matter of months. And so for me, like I just knew in my soul that I had the perfect skill set to try and make this channel a reality and help people and inspire people. And so I don't know, like obviously I couldn't predict being successful, but I had an inkling about it. I knew that something was here, that there was a hidden gem in the rock that I could carve out. But yeah, as far as stories go, starting off with a small community is really scary but really awesome because you end up with a group of people who actually genuinely care about you and your content, not about the numbers that you have, nothing like that. It's very genuine, and that alone, like a lot of my first supporters are the people that have been the strongest supporters throughout my entire journey. And it's really cool to have had those people from the beginning stick around when I had 100 subscribers, and then still have some of the loudest voices when I have 100,000, which is amazing. But the most influential thing that happened to me back then is I had had my channel for about 4 weeks, and I ended up making another avatar for somebody that I really, 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 really looked up to, and his name is Porter Robinson. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Porter Robinson before, but he's a fairly famous musician who created a bunch of like electronic music that hit it off really, really well in the 20 teens. And so I made an avatar for him just as like fan art, and I posted it on his Reddit, and I was like, hey, Porter Robinson, hit me up if you want this model, like I'll give it to you, kind of a thing, being cheeky. And he ended up actually messaging me and responding to my message and saying like, yeah, I would love this model, like I don't know how to use it in VRChat, but I would love to have it. So we ended up meeting up, which was crazy because he was like, my biggest inspiration in life, like music wise. Like his music just meant so much to me. And so I got to meet him and I gave him this avatar and he was so excited about it. But we ended up hanging out in VRChat after that. And I showed him to some different worlds and we explored together and just had some really good conversation. And during one of our conversations, I ended up kind of having a heartfelt like spill, like just of my emotions and feelings. And I just told him about how I was so excited to be doing my own channel and how it was the thing I was the most passionate about, and how all these good things have been happening to me since I've started following my intuition and believing in myself, and how a lot of that spurred from his music. And he was very moved by it and he ended up having it on like record. So he posted a video of me talking to his YouTube channel, and I went from having about 400 subscribers in a day to within a few days having about 4,000 subscribers. And all of a sudden my community was mixed in with the Porter Robinson community, and that was probably the best thing that I could have hoped for, because everybody there is just so kind and so inspired and really just excitable people, and they really cared about what I was doing. And having that kind of support and like was just something that I couldn't have asked for. Like it was just beyond a blessing. And yeah, it definitely changed the direction of my content and provided me with a safe community and the little kickstart that I needed to really, really get started with my journey.
Wow, that is such an amazing story. First of all, connecting to someone you really look up to, a famous musician,
Mhm.
being part of the community, and also having his community, your community too. And it's just, you were part of that fan community and now they're your fans. So that's so amazing.
Yeah, really crazy.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, how do you manage to change your facial expressions? I see you blinking, I see you smiling. How do you pull that off in VR?
So right now I'm using a VTubing desktop application. So I'm not currently in VR, but when I do VR videos and stuff, I have like hotkeys on my controller, which is the same as what I'm doing at my desktop. I have hotkeys on my mouse. So whenever I'm feeling a certain way, it's actually really funny because I get so used to having these hotkeys and doing my emotions that sometimes when I'm like sitting at my computer or walking around, I'll feel like my thumbs start to go to the positions of the different expressions that I'm feeling. And I'll be like, oh, that's funny, I should laugh. And then I go and I start moving my thumb to press like the hotkey for it. And I can't do that now. Like that's not how real life works. But yeah, that's kind of a summary of how that works.
Cool. Have you ever been through very difficult days that make you question if you should keep doing this? Why is this so hard? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think content creation can be one of the hardest jobs to have just because of the instability of it. It's non-predictable. You don't know what's going to happen. At any given point, your views can just completely drop. A video can do completely terribly. You can lose subscribers. Anything can happen and you cannot predict that. It's totally up to the YouTube algorithm, which can be really, really scary. And you don't know at any point it can like literally drop you. And so at least for me, it definitely is anxiety inducing, right? You don't know. And so at times when things do go down, it can get really defeating and it definitely hurts. But thankfully, I have such a good support group, and especially with my boyfriend slash manager, he helps me out so much in keeping my head up and just reminding me that, hey, like it doesn't matter if the numbers go down because overall you're still growing and you're going to do great and people love your community for what it is. And I just remind myself, even if I never grew anymore from right here, even if I ended at 100,000 subscribers and I never grew anymore, I would still be completely happy with my life and I would be making such a difference that I wouldn't trade it for anything regardless. So I try and remind myself of that and be like, hey, as long as you're making a difference in this world, it doesn't matter how big you get because any difference is still a difference. And that's really what matters.
Yeah, I think the support circle is just so important, whether it's from your fan base or from people around you. They give you encouragement and helps you go there. Because a lot of times, sometimes things just feel discouraging, feels frustrating, but from our view, things are still, you're at a good place, you have momentum, you just have to stick to it, right? And continue.
Right.
And I think it's the people around us that remind us that, hey, don't feel sad about the moment, see the big picture where you are and how far you've come, and you just have to push a little harder to get to the next phase. And I think
Mhm.
that's great. And so again, congrats for reaching that 100,000, right? A lot of people do feel like that is like the place where you get the play button. It's amazing. So I'm sure you hit that, you said a month ago. So I'm sure that's a great feeling.
Yeah, it feels amazing when it's amazing. Yeah. That's all that needs to be said.
Were you watching the countdown? It's like, oh, so close, so close, so close until the very spot, or, you just went to bed, did something else, came back and you hit that point?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the numbers get like awfully close. I remember it being at the 99.9 and being like, like dying, like just so excited. And I ended up having to go to bed because I was in London at the time with my boyfriend. I was visiting him for the very first time, actually. And we had a huge day full of busyness planned. And so I couldn't just, stay up all night and watch it, sadly. But when I woke up to a bunch of notifications on my phone of people congratulating me, and I saw the number, and yeah, my whole body felt warm and joyful. So it was really amazing.
That's great. Do you interact with your boyfriend in VR?
Yes, we actually would have what I would consider a VR relationship, where we go on VR dates and we hang out there. And it's really a huge step for us because we're long distance. And before last month, we had never met each other because of coronavirus. We kept on saying like, oh, it'll just be a couple more months. But of course, what happened. So we ended up meeting in VRChat for our dates and stuff, and getting to hang out with our friends and going to events and whatnot. And it really is such a big help in trying to mend that distance, when otherwise you wouldn't have that sense of presence or that directional audio to make them feel like they're there. It's just, I'm so grateful for it that I live in a time where I can have VR to help ease my relationship, because otherwise I'd just make it so much harder.
What are some of the great things to do on a date in VR that you recommend other VR couples to do?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's tons of different worlds you can go to, like puzzle worlds, putt-putt golf, pool, like anything you can pretty much imagine is there. But our favorite thing to do is we go on dates to music events. So we have a whole bunch of friends in the music VR community. And obviously, since my boyfriend is a music producer slash DJ, he likes to go DJ at events as well. And so we'll find these events and then go to them, and you will actually have live music and live visuals and reactive lights and audio links and stuff like that, where it's just so immersive. And especially at this time where we don't have shows right now, where you can't go to live events, going to those in VR is the craziest, coolest thing. So I highly recommend trying to find music events in VR if you've never been to one already.
Great. So we're talking about supportive people, support circle. But what about the other side? How do you deal with negative comments or trolling online? Because as you know, on YouTube, sometimes because of all these anonymous people, sometimes the worst out of people just come out and they just say bitter things. How do you deal with that? I guess early on, and I believe over time, you potentially have a better way to deal with it too.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you do in life, there's always going to be haters, right? Like literally, you could be Mother Teresa and do nothing wrong, and somebody's going to be like, oh, you look funny, you have a big nose. There's so, like somebody's going to come out and say something, and it doesn't matter who you are. And you just have to like remember that these are just random people's opinions, and some people just love being negative, and you can't let that get to you. For me, a lot of my comments will come out of people being like, oh, she's faking her personality. She's faking being a woman. It's definitely a 45-year-old man behind there trying to trick us all. And, just people saying some really weird things about me. And at least in my mind, I just give it no thought. Like it's obviously just a troll. It's obviously somebody who's just trying to mess with my head. Like it means absolutely nothing to me. So unless somebody really came after like my relationship or somebody that I'm close to, then I really just don't pay it any mind. I don't give it any attention. So for some people that's easier than others. I know that hate comments can get to a lot of people and make them really sad or uncomfortable. And that really is so wrong that people go around saying those things. But I just encourage anyone who's ever gotten that kind of negative attention and just realize that those people are always going to be saying some kind of random crap about you, no matter how you change yourself. So you might as well be yourself and express yourself the way that you feel is the best and, helping the world the most. And if you're doing that, then nobody can complain.
Yeah, and I think you're dealing with the most healthy way possible. And I think a lot of people know that in theory. Like you said, they just take things a little bit personally. They know they shouldn't. and maybe you're able to do it because you feel very comfortable with yourself, and you know that, hey, like you said, haters gonna hate, and that's what they do to make themselves happy. There's nothing you can do to please them, so you just kind of let it go. And like you said, you only care about people you actually care about, right? If people you care about are saying these things, you might think about it more. It might change how you feel a bit, but those trolls, you should pay no attention to them. I think you're living that principle, which I think is very respectable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, what's a top highlight moment in your YouTube career? I know you talked about some of the early stories with your favorite musician. I know the 100K. Is there anything else you want to share that are like great highlight moments, or you've already shared those?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of great highlight moments. I guess I can just give a few. I mean, some of the coolest things that I've gotten to do is meet other people that I've looked up to. So, you know, I've got to make a VTuber model for Jax Films, who's been my favorite YouTuber since I was like 16 years old, and I'm 21 now. And so he had a whole video on his channel where he featured the VTuber model and gave me a big fat shout out, which was so cool. So that was a huge highlight for me. Along with him, I've gotten to meet other YouTubers and VTubers as well that are people that I really look up to. And I think that's always kind of a surreal, like kind of, you know, I get the fangirl a little bit on the inside moment when they notice me type of thing, which is so cool. But I would say as a general highlight, something that I never really realized that I would be able to do is how much that I would actually help and inspire people. When I made my first like tutorial videos, the reason I made them is because I felt like nobody else had really done them yet. And I wish that I had those videos when I was first starting out. So I decided to make those so that I could help people the way that, you know, I needed when I was starting off. And I've had so many people come to me and tell me that they decided to start VTubing because of my videos, or they want to be a VTuber now because they saw me. And I even know a few VTubers who started doing it, and then they have like really big followings now. And it's so cool because they like say like, oh, I wouldn't have started without Phia. And I would say that is one of the biggest highlights for me, is knowing that I've like actually like, you know, curated my own little like circle of the internet of VTubers where they got inspired because of me. Like oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. I love it so much. And I just want everybody to know that they can be a VTuber if they want to. It doesn't matter who you are. Like if you have, you know, a computer, you can go for it.
Yeah, I believe one of your most popular videos is the one that's a tutorial how to become a VTuber, has around a million viewers, right? So the audience out there, if you ever think this is really, really cool, you want to be a VTuber too, just check out Phia's video. I think it's really great. It talks about, you know, free things you can do, some things that cost a bit of money, but ultimately it's your full guide of how to become awesome like Phia.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Great. So where do you think VR would be in 10 years?
Oh, that's a fun question. I like this question. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that could happen in VR. Obviously, we're just at the beginning phase of it still, where it's just gaining popularity and the technology is just now becoming where it needs to be. But I think a list of things that I'm really excited to see are definitely like haptic suits. I really want to see that. I want to see better full body tracking. So like ideally I'd like to see like haptic suits that also have tracking inside of them, like a Tesla suit, you know, like if you've heard of those before, those are so awesome. I want to see those for like VRChat, you know, seeing stuff like that. And then also getting better specs, like better FOV, better resolution, things like that is just going to make the experiences so much more immersive. And I think it's going to start tricking people at some point, you know, where people are going to start thinking like, wait a minute, which reality am I actually living in here? Which one's the real one? So I think there's a lot of philosophical questions that come with VR usage. And I think the more immersive that it becomes, the more people are going to start thinking about that. And by like a side effect, I think a lot of people are going to start doing things like virtual reality PhDs. I know somebody who's doing one of those. Which, you know, never really was a thing before, you know? So yeah, overall, I just think the future of VR is incredibly bright. There's so much that's going to happen technology wise. There's so much that's going to happen to the mainstream. You know, I could probably go on forever, so I probably won't spend too much time on this question, but yeah, just look forward to the future because there's a lot of good things coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting philosophical questions to tackle as technology advances. One of my friends, his name is Richard Bartle, And
Mhm.
he's actually the inventor of the first MMO. So he's a professor and an Steam designer.
Wow,
And,
amazing.
yeah, and it's doing some. So if you ever look into the gaming space, game design space, then you have Bartle's 4 player types that he created that. But these couple of years has been doing some really interesting research in terms of if there's a virtual world and there's NPCs that have good enough AI that they are basically self-conscious and they want to stay alive, is it ethical to shut down this virtual world? And they would do anything possible to prevent you from shutting down because they don't want to end their existence. Like that ethics about, okay, at that point you're like a deity, right? You created the world, you created them, but they have their own will now, and is it ethical to shut it down? So all these questions are really interesting that we've never needed to explore before, but as
Yeah,
technology
absolutely.
advances, yeah, those things we need to think about. Obviously, as an influencer, you have a lot of things you do are public. A lot of people admire you for a lot of things you do. Is there something that you are proud of in your life that isn't obvious to others?
That's an interesting question. I feel like generally when I tell people like the stuff I'm proud of, it is the very like open-ended kind of stuff. But I would say a lot of my I mean not to get like too personal, but I think this is a common story for a lot of us is like the whole mental health struggle. For me, I've had definitely a pretty crazy journey of battling my mental health and kind of trying to figure that out for myself during while making my channel and getting started and stuff like that. And I've discovered a lot about myself and the way that I view the world and the way that I cope with things, and have really overcome a big like hurdle that I've had to deal with for the past year and a half. And it's been really awesome to not only be conquering kind of like my public goals, which are like creating my channel and growing and doing all this crazy stuff with VR, but also overcoming some of my personal struggles that I've been dealing with since I was a kid. So I would say that would probably be my proudest thing that I've done. That's not necessarily things that people would realize, because I think on the outside everybody thinks like, oh, you're just smiley VTuber Phia, ha ha ha. But of course, I'm just like anybody else. So I have my own share of struggles as well. So hopefully that can mean something to someone there.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, and you noted yourself, like actually these days a lot of people are dealing with these kind of mental issues, some sadness, depression, whatnot. But I think what's really interesting is that there's a time where there's a lot of stigma. People feel shame. They wouldn't admit to it. They don't want to talk about it. But more and more as I'm talking, especially to the influencers and interviewing people say that, look, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of where I am today. I'm proud of overcoming it. And I think that's a very important movement and transformation in society, saying, look, this is not something people should be ashamed of. This is something that a lot of people go through. It's not like you're abnormal, you're going through something that's wrong and there's something wrong with you. Everyone kind of goes through something like this. And the key
Mm-hmm.
is about facing it, confronting it, and having a healthy, just like the troll comment, right? Having a healthy attitude towards it and be able to speak about the wins proudly. I think that's so important. And again, I respect you a lot for being able to say that as a sign of strength, as something you're proud of.
Thank you. That means a lot.
What are some top lessons you have acquired in the year you've been a VTuber? Especially unexpected
Um,
lessons, things you actually didn't expect to learn going into it.
That's interesting. I guess for me, a lot of times I have to learn I can't bite off more than I can chew. I will sometimes have these really big ideas and I'll think that I can handle them on my own and just kind of like chug right into them and have no problems. But I have learned a lot about how to take things step by step and learning like ways to like actually manage myself and manage my time and my energy and my projects. So that would be a big lesson that I've learned. And also, I've just learned how much I really depend on other people and how much I think humans as a whole are just community managed. Like we really do depend on each other. And I mean, maybe that's something I'm just learning because I'm a new adult. Like I just turned 21, so I'm still like fresh out of college kind of a thing. But I'm just learning how important it is to lean on other people for help and learn what they have to say and get help and share your help with other people and that kind of stuff. I oftentimes people just assume like, oh, like Phia, you made this whole channel by yourself. You've done so much. Like, I can't believe it. When in reality, I am super dependent on the people around me. I have my editors, I have my manager, I have my art director. Like, these people, like I would not be able to do what I do without them, and I really do depend on them. And they're so kind and helpful, and I just wouldn't trade that. So that would be another thing that I've really learned through this journey, is just how much one project can't be done alone.
Yeah, and welcome to being an adult. I'm actually 35 now, but I still feel like,
Mm.
21 was not that long ago, and I feel I still enjoy fun things, play games, watch anime. I feel like I never lost the child in me, and I think it's great. I recommend you obviously mature where you need to be, but just never lose the child inside of you, and just have fun with what you do. I think that's the most important. Enjoy your life.
That's great advice. Absolutely wonderful.
Great. So as we wrap up, what's a channel you would recommend others to check out? Ones that inspired you, and you mentioned a few. What would you recommend?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good YouTubers out there. I guess I'll give you like a little taste of some of my favorites. So if you're really interested in like VR kind of stuff and you haven't heard of this channel before, it's called Virtual Dreamers. My friend Gregory, he runs this channel, and he's like probably close to like half of 100,000 subscribers at this point, and he deserves so much more attention because his topics that he covers are really cool. He talks a lot about like Sword Art Online and technology and how we're going to get to that point. He's building his own like VR suit and stuff like that. So, if you're into that kind of stuff, he's a really, really cool person to follow. If you're into like some fun, like VR, just like funny content, then I highly recommend Drumsy. Drumsy is one of like my good friends, and him and his friends go on these crazy VR adventures together in VRChat and do some really funny stuff. So, really fun to be around. And yeah, I would say those are two kind of good tastes of some channels that I would recommend.
Yeah, and as usual, I really love the energy you have, the positivity when you're talking about other channels, other people you look up to, admire, you really enjoy their content, and you're just this positive force in this world, and inspiring everyone and lifting everyone up. So really appreciate you doing all of this for the VR community, for other influencers, for people who don't know VR yet but are about to know VR because of you, and also, like you talked about, people who are becoming VTubers because of your work. So thank you so much. And yeah, we're concluding here. Look forward to seeing the things you'll do in the future, more videos. Is there anything last comments you want to make to our audience? And feel free to plug anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to keep up with my content more, then you can obviously hop over to my YouTube channel, which is just Phia, Phia. On Twitch, if you want to catch up with my streams and just hang out and say hi to me, then that's Phia Bunny. Twitter's Phia_Bunny. Instagram is Phia Bunny. So that's, my socials if you want to keep up with me. Otherwise, anybody can do VR, anybody can be a VTuber, and, you shouldn't let anybody stop you, because I know sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking at first to kind of express yourself online, but it is possible for anyone to get into it. So be encouraged, be inspired, and be yourself.
Yeah, I'm encouraged. I kind of want to be a VTuber now. But,
You should go for it. I can help you. It'd be so fun.
Sure, love to see that. Love to do what you're doing one day. Yeah, but again, thank you so much for your time here and sharing some of your insights, some of your experiences. I know the VR community will be inspired by it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.